while you grew up in a segregated sort of black-white society, at the same time you're also in a kind of Afro-Cuban society as well, or Cuban society in Florida?
Well, more particularly the African American society, because my father was the only Cuban in town where we lived, and the nearest Cuban settlement was in Tampa, which is 32 miles away from the town where I was born, Lakeland. And my father would go to Tampa to visit his Cuban relatives in France in order to have his contact with his background and his culture. And the migration of Cubans to Florida after the Spanish-American War was very interesting. Most of the Cubans settled in Key West, Florida, which is still predominantly a Cuban culture. Then the tobacco plants for cigars was established in Tampa, where a lot of Cubans came because that was the industry that attracted them. So we had in the state of Florida, when I was growing up, we had a Cuban culture in Key West, we had a Cuban culture in Tampa, and it was only after Fidel Castro came into power that Miami became a conclave of anti-Castro Cubans in Miami, and I'm not part of that culture at all. My father's culture was turn of the century Cubans, and so my exposure to the Cuban culture was through my father, periodic visits with his family and his friends in Tampa. But I have only identified myself as a Latino in my adult years, and in fact in Seattle. I'm very active with the Latino community. The legal groups, I'm a member of the Hispanic National Bar Association, a national group, a charter member of its judicial council, you know, that kind of thing. And I am more involved with the Latino community than I am with the African American community. And one day when I write my book, I'll explain all of that. But even though I am generally recognized as an African American person, my involvement is mostly with Latinos. And of course, my wife happens to be of Puerto Rican ancestry. She's born in Hawaii. And so that mixes our culture even more. And then two of my sons married Japanese, and so I have that mixture in the family. So when you put it all together, I am sort of part of what Wendell Willkie referred to as one world, where we don't make cultural distinctions, and we don't make distinctions, we don't separate, but we come together as one group. And I think this is very common in many families. My family is not unique in that sense, and so I could identify with the Latino culture, I could identify with the African American culture, I could identify with the Asian culture, and all these things come into focus, and I'm very happy with my existence under those circumstances.